Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of GNN. Today is April 30th, 2025. And of course, as always, we have a banner night on our hands here. But before we get into the details of our brand new mobile suit, let's go for some news. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you might have guessed from last week's shenanigans, we have Golden Week in full effect right now. So what that means is during Golden Week, we do have an updated power-up hanger campaign going on. So if you're trying to tune up some really cool suits that you're really vibing with, definitely take advantage of that, because there's a 3x success rate within those hangers, and then 3x enhanced values for duplicate mobile suits too. So dupes, don't be afraid. It'll be really cool because you're gonna get that all squared away. And then we're also, I think these are done and over with, but they might be still going with the enhancements and the mechanic tickets and the boosted supply drop stuff. I can't say that I recommend those, but yeah, just be aware those are ongoing right now. And of course, we do have GBO days back here again, so that means a special 4-day campaign every month, they say, but you know, they mean every week. I know it's kind of weird. So we're gonna have a free pool for today, but as always, here's our main event. We knew this eventually was gonna show up since we had the mass production new Gundams, and now this is here. The Prototype Psycho Gundam is now here. And then on top of that, we have a limited supply drop for the Gundam Mark 5 with this is for the general, by the way, not the raid. So we are now jumping into 700 for the Mark 5. So this is your chance to, if you haven't already gotten this might be, you got some tokens to spare, this might be something to grab. I have yet to run this myself yet, but it definitely takes some time to get used to compared to the raid version. But it's definitely nice to see this finally in the game. I know this was a while back, but still, I know much of the community has been asking for this a long time ago. It's just nice to see. We do have this week, for the second week for Golden Week, we have the boosted supply drop for the Space Frame 4 for the second step, and the composite frame type B part, which I do have. The first step is half off, which yeah, step 2, step 3, you're guaranteed the custom parts, but it's not shown whether you're gonna get anything on the first one. Can't say I recommend that one either, but you know, do it at your own risk. That's all I can mention. We do have some changes to the recycle ticket counter as follows, with the level 1 and level 2 wound warp being added. So this is, I believe, a native 450 suit, and we're also getting the 500. Now this is a really neat TR6 based mobile suit from Advanced Zeta, because it also transforms. It does not have any type of shock dampers to my knowledge while in flight, but it does have some tools that kind of almost put it on toe-to-toe with anything on the field, even some raids that might be clareless. But because it is a sport, it is still a little on the fragile side, but you know, we'll save that for another story later. We do have some changes to the DP exchange counter, with the Nemo cannon now being available. This is also, I believe, a 450 support. This is equipped with a dual beam cannon on its back, similar binders to, I want to say, kind of like the not quite the Shiki, but I think it's inspired by the Rick Diaz, if I'm not mistaken, behind the lore. But it comes with the GM2 rifle, just like it normally does, but it's also able to use the 105mm cannon that the normal Nemo uses. This is actually one of the fun supports I've had a chance to play with in its time. It is a 2-star, so it doesn't quite have all the fancy gimmicks that some of the more advanced stuff, more advanced suits that are in that cost range, but I would say it definitely has some really cool stuff. Plus it has balancers too, so it does give you some type of fighting chance in that sense. Jumping into the clan match schedule, I believe this weekend right now, May 3rd, gonna be Ace Match 450 in space. This one's also a early morning clan match. Oy. But the following week, it's 5:50 in Resort. It's a basing match, and it's an evening one. So looks like they are changing up the game modes for those evening matches. For those of you guys that are based out here in the States, yeah, we're getting something different finally. But all I can say is, man, Resort's gonna be one of those funky things, especially with 550. Especially all those stealth suits. I'm looking at you Pixie players. Joking aside though, there's a lot of nook and crannies there. I'm pretty sure you guys already know if you play it enough. And then the next week after that is back to those good old 5 a.m. morning shifts. I pretty much might as well call them morning shifts, because basically that's a simple battle at 350 on Impact. So, and this is for the Gelgoog Lancer. I'm pretty sure L means Lancer. Lanzier. Anyways, for those guys that don't know already, this is a really cool suit at 400. It's a 2-star. It's actually in my opinion, a low-cost, high-mobility type Gelgoog, just because of the shenanigans that it has, what it brings. It doesn't have quite the same melee pattern in that case, but it kind of fills in a similar niche. Also, we got that nice Gelgoog Commander type shield, which I think is unique to the Lancer. Although it does remind me, it's very similar to the SEMA's Gelgoog Marine type. And so right now, since we are on 244 for this upcoming week, it is top 10 right now. And then the subsequent week after that, starting at 245, 246, 246, which is going to be in 2 weeks, that'll be opening up to the top 40. So interesting stuff thus far. So our main event here, as I mentioned before, this is a Psycho Gundam, the prototype version. This is a 3-star general type at 650. Huh. And this is based on the Mark II, utilizing Xeon and Federation technology, using the Mark II as a basis. Unfortunately, this thing is thick, based on the Kunio Okawara illustrations, the missing MSV. This is a missing MSV mobile suit. So this thing has a lot of range attacks. I don't recall if this thing has any type of melee weapons as well. I know we have the little trailer thing that you'll probably saw at the beginning, but yeah, I don't recall if it has traditional beam sabers or anything, or if it forms beams on its hands like the Psycho Gundam and Psycho Gundam Mark II. This also has a skill called Psychomu System Frenzy, so when at less than a certain amount of HP, the skill will temporarily activate but only once, so basically similar to the biosensor thing. Increases power and mobility, reduces thruster consumption while doing high-speed movement, or starting high-speed movement, reduce reaction from ranged attacks, grant the effect of interrupt tackle. I'm gonna have to look into that once we get into the suit. Altering reactions caused by tackles, so I'm guessing it's going to be similar to damage control when being tackled. Nullifies all reactions except, okay, yeah, during skill activation, so kind of like biosensor. And increases damage taken to your unit, so like a mixture of biosensor, exam, and Hades all put together. Counter animation of prototype Psycho Gundam. When counter is triggered, this unit grabs the enemy with its right arm. Counter changes based on the use of sub-weapon wired arm beam cannon launch. When the right arm is on the unit, triggers normal counter activation when the right arm is deployed. Counter will activate, but it's still possible to down the enemy unit. So probably they probably get knocked down or something. Oh, interesting. And of course, if you are doing 10 pulls for this wonderful suit, you are getting a chance. If you missed out on this a long time ago, this is your chance to get the Titan's uniform normal suit, both the normal suit and the helmet. Really cool stuff. I believe this originally came out. Yeah, this originally came out when the Mark II came out, like back in 2020. 2019. It's been such a long time, but this is your chance if you are looking into that. So, on to the nitty-gritty. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we are with the pride and joy of tonight's banner, the Prototype Psycho Gundam. Okay, so jumping down the line of its stats, we have a good whopping 27.5k HP, pretty substantial at 650. Now, of course, mine has a little bit of tuning, so 30s, low 30s on both ballistic and beam, with a little bit of emphasis on melee resistance, because, you know, it's a general, wants to get in there, with a leaning towards melee strength, which we'll get to shortly, because despite its thick boy nature, as a lot of you may have already noticed, 120 is not really quick. I would say it's kind of like the bare minimum for most generals. There are definitely a lot more faster cruising stuff at 650. Plus, you also have high speed movement of 210, which is definitely on the slower side. I know a lot of suits generally at this cost range are looking at around 220, 225, maybe 230 if you're playing with some tuning parts there. We do have a generous amount of thrust gauge considering its slower weight. Well, it's slower speed, heavy weight, kind of sticking to the lore, so that makes sense. Turning speed of everybody's favorite meme of 69, which is still pretty decent, but with all the new stuff at that cost, we're gonna definitely need something a little bit higher than that for sure. But I will look at, looking at the custom parts slots there, we do have some decent room to play with, not a whole lot in long range capability. Considering that this has a significant amount of beam weaponry available and would eventually be incorporated into the big giant kahuna, the actual Psycho Gundam that we all know and love in situation battles and battle simulator stuff. Yeah, that one. But yeah, it looks like we have something decent to play around with. Going into the primary weapon, we have its arm beam cannon, which is shot from its right hand. We only have just the one, so it's 2200 power, 80% heat rate, with an effective range of 350 meters, 15-second overheat with a 3.5-second cooldown time between shots, so 2 shots, you're instantly overheating this thing. So there's that. We do have a unique version of the blow mechanic for this prototype Psycho Gundam. So this one has a 2.0, 2-second cooldown time between swings, and a 2800 base power. So this is very much on par with a lot of suits. Damage-wise, I would say, at the cost range, is just, as we all know, with punching things, we don't have quite the same reach as some of the more fancier stuff out there. So that is definitely something that I noticed already, and I know that's going to get into a lot of trouble for people that are used to playing other suits. So, oh boy. Going into the sub-weapon category, we have a chest beam, chest diffused mega particle cannon, base 250 with a 30% heat rate, and an effective range of 250 meters. I believe this is a multiple shot, so that's not surprising considering the low base power, but it's going to be multiple shots, so I'm going to say, just to be safe, maybe 3-4 shots or so. It's probably 2, actually, but for the most part, 2 seconds cooldown time between bursts, 20%, 20-second overheat. I don't know why I got 20%, but 20-second overheat with a 1.5-second focus. This does allow you to fire normally, and it also suppresses when you charge the weapon there, so definitely pretty neat. Very similar to the RF Dom that we've ran into before, and we've ran very similar mechanics, I would assume. So definitely neat as a backup weapon there. We do have a dual arm beam cannon mode for the Psycho Gundam, or the prototype Gundam Psycho Gundam, with a base power of 1000 times 2, 45% heat rate, and effective 350 meters distance there with a 1-second cooldown time and 15-second overheat. So while you're stunning, you can kind of you have tools to kind of midline a little bit. Granted, you're not going anything further than 350, but at that point you're either committing or you're repositioning, I would assume. So we also have a wired beam cannon launching thing. It's not really a thing, but with wired arm beam cannon in launch mode. So this is basically like an NCOM in a way. Base power of 1400, 40% heat rate, 275 effective range, 3-second cooldown time, and a 15-second overheat. So this is meant to be kind of, I'm assuming this is going to lock on, fire a couple times or however many times, probably twice to say the least, and then, you know, return back to its position. Definitely something that would be kind of playing those corners there. Yeah, so it's gonna fire, lock on, okay? And then we also have a blow version, which is on the left hand. So 2600 base power, one shot, instant reload of 12 seconds. So oh boy, this is gonna be pretty interesting to say the least, because this is a melee lock on too. So this is like very similar to the I want to say tri-blades on the Toadsterter. I know a lot of people might be thinking, oh, you're thinking about the Dryson, right? Not exactly. At least the Dryson one you guide in. This one's a lock-on, so I can definitely see the Psychomu test type, or the Psychomu part, definitely playing a role for faster lock-ons there, especially with these two here. Going into the shopping list of skills, we got some usual suspects here: leg shock absorber 3, flight control 2, so this is definitely meant to be kind of in there. Obviously anti-blast, definitely a nice thing, especially for a suit that's going to be in the thick of things. Plus it also has explosive reactive armor. That is going to be pretty interesting, because the suit that comes to mind when I think of range ballistic explosives is the Zekuzoi. I don't know how this is going to react to something like the Denanzan, because the Shot Lancer is ballistic based, but this might be a counter to that. Not 100% sure, but it does come to mind when I think about it. All I can say is we're going to have to look into that in future matches for sure. Obviously it has balancers as well, kind of hard not to see that. Ambach level 2, so this is going to have space compatibility, and it has priority 3, which is not been seen with a general type for a very long time. So this is gonna be definitely going toe to toe with some of the raids out there, with exception to the ones that have power accelerated. You guys know who runs those. That's gonna be a big deal. MA1 pretty much par for the course. Force injector 3, considering the amount of weight this thing's supposed to be carrying. Enhanced tackle 6. So this is dang near almost at the same level as my Hazel custom at the time. 300% to attack, 50% to distance covered with enhanced tackles. This thing's going to be nasty, especially with the fact that this already has a high level of melee strength to begin with. 2-hit combo, offensive system on top of that, damage control 3 on top of that. Has back buffers at leg buffer 4s as well, because of the added silhouette of this thick boy. This is pretty much on the same level as the double Zeta already, if not as thick. That's what comes to mind. We also have Pursuit Melee Ox Program level 1, so an additional 15% damage on top of that, while they're toppled with melee weapons. So yeah, following up with this thing is going to be nuts. And then we have Psycho System Frenzy, which activates at 50% like we mentioned before, so we get a lot of more attack power, mobility. It's just gonna go nuts, but it also dies a lot quicker too. So pretty crazy stuff to say about this. All I know is now that I have it, I gotta get painting with this. All right, folks, with that said, that concludes tonight's update with the Prototype Psycho Gundam now coming into GBO2. I want to know what you guys think about this crazy new suit from the missing MSV portions. I knew at some point we would get this. I just didn't think it was going to be this soon. But it is crazy considering that we have a lot of the other missing MSVs that this is supposed to be related to. This is finally here. It's crazy this has also got that Alex style head. So I think for aesthetics purposes, they probably used a lot of similar assets and Mark II stuff to kind of put it all together. But yeah, my brain is thinking Alex already. But I want to know what you guys think, if this is worth it, if this is going to be a menace at 650 with all the new and crazy stuff that's flying around. I'm kind of glad that this doesn't have flat boosters either, but I wonder how that's going to contend with everything. But anyways, we'll have to find out about that later. If you guys enjoyed this video, found it informative, please don't hesitate to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out immensely. But your comments also are very much welcome as well. So yeah, we'll have to follow up with this at some point. I don't know how soon I'll get to this because of all the other projects and things that are going on. But until next time, guys, I will see you guys all on the next video. Take care.